let me see if I could word it like this. So the morning of Halloween, my son's mom, Xavier's mom, was like, "Hey, if you guys happen to be in the area, could you guys swing by so I can see, Xavier for Halloween? I have something special to give him." And it's the morning of, and you know me, I don't like the last minute thing, because then that we already agreed on paper that face to faces will be arranged the week prior to any kind of encounter, right?
Right.
So one, I was stressing the entire day, like, oh crap, I need to be in front of her in some way, shape, or form, in her vicinity, and the whole, just how I feel, just be around in her area. So but at least now she was more or less able to admit where she lives, even though I knew, but now, oh, she's now giving me that information. But before, she was very like, oh, I don't want you to know where I live, and now she's like, hey, come over. It was the same thing whenever she lived like an hour away in Clarion, where she didn't want me to know where she lived, and I'm like, but we have court papers stating where you live. It's not like anyway. So I was stressing the entire day, and I was like, should I not? And I ended up doing it. I ended up, after we were done trick-or-treating, we all stopped at Sheets. Me and Xavier got out, and since she was located like in the vicinity of Sheets, we ended up just walking down to her place so that she can see him. And I'm trying to, one, keep it together, two, trying to not have my angry face on, because I know that, okay, because I feel that way, my inner response is like, okay, prepare for attack, prepare for anything and everything,
Right.
But I also have to not seem like I'm that angry kind of individual, so I have to kind of remind myself to shut down my face. But there was nothing special exchanged other than candy. It was regular candy. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I have an extra bag of candy I got just for you. It was like, oh yeah, just get one from the bucket that everybody else is getting from. And I'm like, there was nothing special. I could have missed this, and he would have missed virtually nothing. Considering that weekend he was also going to see her, and she was going to see him. They had a video call the very next day, so it's not like, oh yeah, she was going to miss out on anything. So the very next day, right before the video call, she wanted to say, hey, is it okay that we switch the time for the visitation tomorrow? And I try not to be difficult. I understand things happen and everything else. I'm like, okay, cool. Why do you, what's going on? Is something with work? There's some other plans conflict? And she goes, well, because it's now fall, it's going to be darker at 5. I'm like, that upcoming Sunday was the time switch day.
Okay.
Daylight savings time, excuse me.
Right.
And if it was after then, I would understand, but at 5 o'clock it doesn't get that dark, considering that the time frame is from 12 to 5 that time.
Right.
And she wanted to switch it from 11 to 4. I'm like, that doesn't, why are you trying to give me all these last minute changes that mean absolutely kind of nothing? So I'm like, okay, no, we're not going to do that change for tomorrow, because tomorrow at 5 o'clock it's still going to be bright outside. It's it doesn't get dark at that time until maybe 6 or 7. Excuse me. So, I was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing that for the second, but we'll revisit this next week for the 16th. And she was just like, thumbs up. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. That's how she communicates, whatever. It's not good, but I'll just accept that. For she read and understood. All right, cool. So that was Thursday. She wanted to change plans. That happened. Friday, she wanted to change plans. I'm like, we'll look into it. Saturday, whenever we went for the actual exchange, so that the face to face, right? Me and Xavier pull in, and we're looking around. We don't see her anywhere. But I noticed there was a car there. That was like, huh. I don't know why, but this car gave me vibes. I'm like, oh. But I'm like, we talked the day before. We messaged before the visitation, because Xavier's backpack, the zipper broke off of it. So I had to message her like, hey, we're finding another backpack. We'll be there shortly. And we were maybe 5 minutes past the expected time. But she had opportunity to oh yeah, I have a car now. And I'm like, okay, so it can't be her. It wouldn't be her. So she gets out of this car. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, obviously she goes sees, Xavier first. And she leans down, looks at me, and she's trying to talk to me. But to be honest, my hearing is, I don't want to say my hearing is going out, but I much rather someone talk to me directly rather than like from like the back seat kind of scenario, especially with something like her. So I rolled down the window so that she can like get closer. Well, not my side, because he's on the other side of, he's on the passenger side. So I rolled down the window, and she goes, "Is it okay that I take Xavier to Clarion? My friend let me borrow a car this morning, and I want to know if I can let him see his relatives."
Even talking to you first.
Say again?
She already made those plans without talking to you first.
Right? Like, even if it was plans, like, you know, that she came up with this morning, it was definitely a situation where she didn't communicate with me on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday that this is something that she wanted to do. But at the same time, I also know that Xavier doesn't really have that many opportunities to talk to his other relatives because they feel a certain way because of me, because of her. Like, even my auntie, she felt a very particular way about me before, like when me and his mom were together. But now that she's seen a lot more of the things that she's been doing, she has been a lot more understanding of my position, and we are now on like a, not just first name basis, but like we talk regularly, and we, you know, and everything else. So like, you know, it's one of those things that I know that the way that Xavier's mom talks to her relatives, that they're looking at me like I am not in the best light. Not in the best light. They look at me and it's not in the best light. So I know that Xavier doesn't get to see his relatives that often, and there are a decent amount of them. So, but keep in mind, Clarion is an hour and a half away.
Right.
And she only gets the 5 hours.
So why can't they come here to see him while she has them?
She doesn't think that. She thought that this. All right, so 1,000,010 things that she could have done differently. She chose this way because she knew that if I said no, Xavier's there. He will hear me say no and be like, "Oh, Dad's the bad guy in this situation." And not only that, she now has a vehicle. If I say no, she says, "Okay," I drive away. She still ends up going to Clarion regardless, whether I say yes or no. When I look back at it, it was Wednesday she was trying to change plans last minute. Wednesday turned into Thursday, changed plan last minute. And now here we are on Saturday with a huge, we're gonna, you know, not relocate, but like, hey, can I take him out of the town? And like, everything in me was screaming no, but at the same time, it was like, well, he doesn't get to see his relatives, that, whatever. I should just let this go. And I end up going like, fine, be back here at 5. So they leave, and I'm a wreck for 5 hours. Going like, I wonder, you know, she now has a vehicle. What's gonna happen? Is there gonna be another last minute change of like, oh yeah, we ran out of gas at the tire pop. We're gonna have to be here overnight. I'm like, no, I'm coming up to pick him up. Like I was prepared to do certain things because like kind of like how you said with the whole planting the seed. I had to plant my own seeds in my own head to prepare for those things. So I'm like every minute, 4 to 5 hours, just panicking. Like, how is she really gonna think it's a good idea to drive an hour and a half there? And an hour and a half back, that's 3 hours. She only gets to spend 2 hours really with him. Granted, the rest of the time it's still them driving together. But like, you know, why? Why is it so last minute? Like my mind's going through all these different scenarios. And she messaged once when they got there, but that was virtually it. So there was no message like, hey, we're on our way back. And like around 4:30, I'm like, okay, I should have gotten a message by now saying that they were on their way back. And I sent a message like, hey, you know, where are you guys at? And it was like around 5 o'clock. She goes, oh, we're at the park. I don't like texting while I'm driving. I'm like, all right, babe, cool. You could have given the phone to Xavier, but okay, whatever. I'm coming up to pick him up. And I go up there, I pick him up, and I leave. And, you know, he tells me he has a good time, which is great. I'm like, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm really happy for you having a good time. Seeing he saw his uncles, some of his uncles. He saw his granddad. I think his grandma actually lives in town, so like, you know, there's that. But like, you know, there is like he still got to see that side of the family. So it took me about 2 days to write up a response of going, from now on, if you do not give me that confirmation a week ahead of time, it's just gonna be automatic decline.
Well, that way you can maintain a little bit of the control, even though she doesn't know.
It's not maintaining control as much as it is the idea of transparency. Like, and we talked about it, the idea of if someone's like, oh yeah, your son went to go see Tom, and I'm like, okay, I know who Tom is. I know what he's about. I know where he lives. I know what he does for a living because we communicate. And if something were to happen, I can reach him. He knows how to reach me. That's transparency. If someone goes, oh, like even if the school was like, oh yeah, we're going to take him somewhere for a field trip. Okay, where is somewhere? Oh, it's a secret. I'm like, yo, no, he's just not going. There's no such thing as a secret.
Right. Well, but that's also keeping him safe.
Yeah.
And that is your job as a parent, to keep kids safe.
Especially my son.
Absolutely.
I see it, but it's one of those things like, okay, I see it like after the fact. Like I didn't think nothing of the situation on Wednesday. I'm like, okay, it's annoying, but like, she is his mother, and she should get the chance to see him. And then Thursday, the whole trying to change the time thing, I'm like, okay, well, that is something that makes sense, but like not in this context, not until Sunday where the daylight savings time kicked in. So like it's one of those like, what are you trying to do? And then Saturday kicked in, and she did that whole, I wanted to see his relatives that happened to be in that area. I'm like, okay, well, and then she knew that if she text messaged me, I would have had the time to say, okay, we're not doing that today then.
Right.
Which is why
that's why she waited.
Yeah. All my whole support team was like, yeah, she waited until that very moment because she knew, one, you'd be less likely to say no in front of your son, and two, she knows she was with you for X amount of years. She knows your ins and outs. She knows that you would not fight against her if she's physically there.
Right.
So trying to fight back we gained the power back come Monday. It was like a whole weekend. I had to like, okay, how do I say this? How do I word this? And then like I worded the best I can, and then I got ChatGPT more or less tell me like, okay, this is how you do that. In the shorter amount of like 3 to 4 lines rather than 3 or 4 paragraphs. So it's kind of a victory that I was able to recognize it. It was kind of a victory that I was able to kind of put a stop to it.